Hello and welcome everybody to a brand new conversation that I'm having with people from all around the world about what it's like to be facilitated by Gary Douglas. And who is Gary Douglas at the end of the day? If you don't know him or if you haven't met him yet, you're about to be in for the wildest treat of your life. So I would like to welcome my friend Max Zulik all the way from England. Hello, Max.
Hello, darling.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Nice and pink today?
Yes, I thought I'd be pretty in pink. So I just need to put a little apology in here. I'm sorry, guys, for anybody that's looking for this video. I made a boo-boo and put the link into the groups, which was my bad. I'm totally okay being wrong. What's right about it? So anyway, I apologize if you tried to jump on live and you weren't able to join us. My fault. And what can I do to make up for the damage I've done? So without further ado, Max, I want to ask you something because I was fortunate enough to meet you right at the beginning of your inception into the access consciousness world of facilitation. Do you remember your first ever conversation with Gary Douglas or your first facilitation with him?
Wow. No. But I need to give a little bit of information about that because you guys were doing the way I found access was you guys were, well, through a friend of a friend, I had my bars run, but then 6 months later, you guys were doing some intros on the Sunshine Coast. Simone Millicis, I think you were doing them too. Christopher Hughes was there, Stephen Outram, Liam Phillips. There was a bunch of people who were doing some intros. So I came to those and I was like, wow. And was just blown away by the tools and what's possible there. And then I did my bars class in a foundation class, which was actually a global foundation, which I was doing at a facilitator's house, but it was with Gary, streamed. I didn't ask a question there. And then that same year, I did the level 2 and 3, which is now called Choice 4 Possibilities. When Gary came to the Sunshine Coast that December. And I don't remember if I asked a question at that class, because for me, everything was kind of a blur. My life was such a mess and all sorts of things. But I was really enthusiastic about what I was learning with Access Consciousness, because I did all sorts of other stuff for 10 years before that. And I got some good stuff from it, but this was just completely different for me. No one had ever spoken about judgment. No one had ever, and just, made it so simple. It's good, bad, right, and wrong. And this is how we really shoot ourselves in the foot. And about choice, that we actually have choice. No one had ever spoken to that, to that in all the things that I'd done. And the first conversation I had with Gary, gosh, I can't remember if I asked questions. And then I went to the 7-day in New Zealand early the following year. Sorry, I'm not answering your question very well, but there is very specific conversations that I've had with him since that I know very well.
And this is partly why I was intrigued to invite you, particularly as a guest, because you're married to Gary's daughter, Shannon O'Hara, and the journey that you had with Shannon, however many years you guys were together, you had 2 children, I think she was living in Australia at the time and then was going traveling, and you were living in Australia. And I personally remember some of the conversations that you or Shannon had with Gary in class, about relationships and kids, and you were going through the separation with your wife or the ex-wife at the time. And I just wanted to ask you, okay, so let's go with a slightly different question. So what is it like? Let's go a different place. What is it like actually being facilitated by him? If you're willing to step up to the microphone in a live class, what is it like being at the microphone?
Cool. Well, in that case, in a class, asking a question with Gary, you never know what you're going to get, basically. If you think you're asking one question and you're going to get one particular result, it's probably not going to be that, because I've tried that a lot of times too, where I thought I was going to have a particular conversation with him, but then he highlights something that seems like it's irrelevant, but it's like totally on point with, and it's such a shortcut to what you're actually asking about, and so much bigger than most likely what you're asking about as well. So I've had a lot of conversations with Gary, obviously, with him being my father-in-law. And I want to mention this other thing is, whereas the first few years of the relationship with Shannon and I wasn't that easy. You know, we had to move through a lot of different stuff. Like you said, I was getting divorced, had 2 young children, and had no idea what I was choosing in my life. But I was really interested in Shannon, and she was really interested in me. And so we were going through a lot of stuff, and Gary helped us a lot with that. And one of the things that blew me away particularly was that when I would have a conversation with him on the phone, because I was having an issue with Shannon and struggling with her as something in the relationship, you know, him being her father, I always kind of would have thought he would have been on her side, or he had a particular point of view about making the relationship work in a particular way or something like that. And every time I got off the phone, I was just blown away how he had no agenda and no point of view about what I should choose. His questions were always about, so what would you like to choose? What's your point of view? Are you valuing yourself in this relationship? It was always about empowering me to have more of me and to get, because I devalued myself in every area of my life constantly, all the time. Back at that time, and including the relationship. So I would always try and look for where Shannon was right, or where she was more conscious than me, or all these sorts of things. And he would always ask me questions to get me to look at, what do I know? What is true for me? What's my perspective? Because I was not willing to look at that at all. So he always had my back in this way that I didn't even really know he had my back, or was possible even in the world. And so there's that. And I'll just give another example too, because you probably don't know about this one, but then I was in a class called the Art of Greatness in Rome in somewhere around 2015 or 16. So I was a participant in the class, and I asked him this question, because this is in contrast to what I kind of just said, and I want to highlight, you never know what you're going to get. I thought I was asking a particular question in that class with Gary, and I wasn't really asking a question. I was like doing this thing of, I was trying to have him have this particular conversation that I wanted to have, not what was actually relevant. And he yelled at me very intensely about where I was trying to be right. And this was, I guess, like 5-6 years. Like Shannon and I were already married for 3-4 years or something, you know. And he yelled at me so intensely about trying to be right, and I wasn't really asking a question, and he was totally correct. And I wasn't really willing to see it in that moment, but the intensity of energy that he was delivering was so perfect for that moment of what I was not willing to see and had never been willing to see about myself and my choices. And that there was an opening for me to actually receive that and choose something different. And so he did that, and then he stomped out of the classroom and went and said, we're going to lunch. So it was this thing of like, there was no resolve in that particular thing. He was delivered this particular energy, and I was just like, I was very shocked. And it gave me this possibility of, it kind of like wiped the slate clean. All of the positive judgments I had and the negative judgments I had, like everything was kind of, you know, when you're shocked and everything's like, nothing else is relevant. There's this degree of space there, but you're really stunned at the same time. So he created this different space for me to look at something different. And I don't know how else I would have ever gotten to see what he was showing me without that degree of intensity, because I was so blocked to that. And for 3 months, I went on this journey of seeing where I was being right and where I was trying to get things right in my life. And that was my only North Star in my life. I could never look at things from a different perspective. And then I started being able to see things in a different perspective. So that was another huge gift that I received from him. It was very intense. It was unexpected, but it was a huge gift. And it continues to unravel as well, that awareness, because I continue to see where I'm trying to be right and where I'm trying to choose right. But it also allows me then to make a different choice, which I've made so many times. And I have the freedom now to actually have a different choice, which I didn't have back then.
Yeah. And I'm so cool you brought this up, because I was in that class, but I was online.
Yeah.
And I remember it very distinctly, because when Gary delivers that level of intensity, it's like nothing is personal. And I think this is such a difference when you're in a normal quote unquote situation. Somebody delivers that kind of intensity. There's usually anger or nastiness or judgment.
And they're trying to create separation.
Yeah. Whereas with him, he is doing whatever it takes to try and get you through one of the biggest things that's basically, where you're shooting yourself in the foot and blocking the entire rest of your life from changing. Because when we take that much of a rigid point of view, we do defend vehemently. We fight for and against points of view, and we don't even know we're doing it. And I remember him delivering that energy, and the fact that he got up and called lunch, it was like, you were left at the microphone. It's like,
I'll tell you another piece of that story that I wasn't sure if I was going to tell on the live, but I will. Then we went to lunch, and I was having lunch with Shannon, my wife, and a couple of other people, right, friends. And there was this energy, because when you're 100% focused on rightness in your life and you being right and doing things right and getting it right and like trying to work everything out how to be right, the only other option then you have to go to is wrongness, because you can only function from this polarity. If there's right, there's wrong. There's right and wrong, and right and wrong. You don't have like infinite choice and possibility in something outside of that. So that's where I was at the time. So I felt pretty wrong, because the rightness was so exposed. And so we were sitting at lunch, just waiting for our food to come, and Gary messaged me. And he said, what was that message? He said, if you keep functioning like this, you're not going to come back to any Access advanced class, because this was an advanced Access consciousness class, right? And I was also functioning from this place of like, surely my father-in-law, wouldn't blah, blah, blah. I had all these points of views. And that's where Viv said, it's like not personal. And it's totally that thing. He doesn't give a shit who you are, what you are, how you are. He cares about the consciousness that's available. And I've seen this repeatedly with other people and myself. It's never about, oh, well, and even with his daughters and stuff, it's it's not about, oh, you're my daughter, therefore. There's never that point of view. It's always about what can create the greatest consciousness here. And so that put this whole other bomb in my universe that kind of destroyed this other illusion that I had of like, well, I'm in this particular position because I'm his son-in-law or whatever, that is totally not relevant to anything, particularly this thing changing. So it was this other bomb in my universe that really got me to sit in what I was choosing. And even that blew like the wrongness that I was sitting in, because the wrongness was an avoidance of seeing what was for me at that time. And once again, it created this like bomb of space in my world where I couldn't really grab onto anything and have these avoidances to seeing what was actually there. So that was the other piece that most people probably don't know, that were probably on that class.
Yeah.
That was also required for that shift for me.
Well, and the thing too was he was very aware of, if you kept going on that tangent, what it would create. You would just destroy your life. You'd destroy whatever your point of view was that was affecting whatever the situation was. He cared about you enough. He was kind enough to go, I'm going to have to bitch slap this guy to try and crack this nut open for him to actually have a sense of space and true choice and freedom.
even
Um,
even at the risk
yeah,
of me like totally rejecting him, and
yeah,
even the risk of Shannon rejecting him for being like
yeah,
that to me or whatever.
yeah,
But the cool thing is she's also smart enough and has gone through enough of this kind of change of like really seeing the
mm,
negative
yeah,
parts of yourself. She's like seen enough of that to realize it wasn't against me or personal. She was
mm,
like giving me the space and to have a look at it for myself.
yeah. Yeah, and the other part of this too is, Gary is renowned for strong talk, although over the last handful of years, I
Yeah.
don't see it very often because there's less fight in people's worlds. And like you
Yeah.
pointed out, this is an advanced class. And the reason when you're in an advanced class, Gary doesn't want anything or anyone to slow the class down or to stop where he knows the class is capable of going. And so he'll use whoever is at the microphone asking for some greater change or greater consciousness to leverage the entire class where everybody can have a whole new space to function from.
Yep.
And it's such a different space to be in when somebody's willing to call you on your stuff, but it's not pointy. Like I said, it's not coming from wrongness. It's not coming from judgment. It's coming from the desire to actually show you that there is a far greater choice with a lot more space and peace and possibility in it. And he's willing to detonate, whether I've been facilitated and where it's been the gentlest of feather touches. And it's like, I walked away from the microphone going, well, that was a waste of time. I didn't get anything. And then, like 10 minutes later, my whole world finds a whole new stratosphere to play in. So it's like, he's so brilliant at that energetic delivery as to knowing exactly what people can hear and when the time is to detonate the bomb. I mean, he's probably been with you for years prior to that. And it's like, right, here's my prime. Let's go. Today's the day.
Yeah. And then in contrast to that too, I've had conversations with him on the phone. I know that's different to like a class situation and so forth, which is what we're talking about here predominantly. But the energy that he's been with me in regards to certain things, like where I felt like I was like totally wrong, and he would just be total space, an interesting point, like there was no judgment in his universe whatsoever. And even just that would shift, like what he was being would shift what was going on for me. And like, it was just not a problem anymore.
Yeah.
And he would, even 10 years down the track of me learning interesting point of view, or even 12 years down the track, he'd be like, so what if you were willing to be interesting point of view about that? And I knew the tool, I've known it for a long time and I've used it in certain ways, but it then created this whole other level of being that tool that I'd never considered beforehand. I would just be like, wow. And it just shifted all sorts of things and gave me access to being something that I couldn't beforehand. And that was through the most feather touch, gentle, simple, seemingly simple, conversation, but the energy that he was willing to be shifted so much.
Yeah. And it's just, also the energy he delivers into your world. And I had an experience very recently with him where I was having a conversation in a class about something. And it was like, all I can describe it as, it was like this nanosecond of this door opening. And it's like I had this whole download of a totally different reality. And it was one of those moments where you kind of like sliding doors moments where, you're standing in this room having a conversation with him from behind the microphone. And yet there was this entire sliding doors moment of this flash of this whole different way that I could live and be and function.
Yeah.
And I talked to him about that. He said, I do that all the time with you, Viv. He said, this is the first time that you haven't shut the door on me. And I'm like, oh man. So he's not just talking with you. He is opening doors and moving molecules and opening the spaces for whole new realities and universes into your world. So it's not just occurring on a verbal level, or the fact that you're on a telecall even with him, because, energy knows no bounds. It doesn't have to be face to face in a live class. It can be on a telecall. You could be sitting in the gallery on a Zoom, or something, and you're not actually asking the question, and you sense the shift energetically of whoever is asking the question, whatever that's changing for you. So it's just how he does what he does and bees what he bees and facilitates is just so beyond this reality and so unfathomable. And, I'm really grateful for this conversation, Max, because you've opened up a lot of other, ways for people to perceive contribution.
Yeah. And something else that I want to mention too is it's so easy to put someone like Gary into like a guru position or this superior position, or that he's better in some way, and he's repeatedly, I've heard him say in classes, and he said it to me personally as well, it's like, I don't require anyone to be like me or choose what I'm choosing. And that is, and it's so true, because it's so easy to make him right.
Yeah.
And I did that for so many years as an access consciousness facilitator myself. I was not cognitively, I wasn't thinking about it, but the way Gary does it is the way that I need to do it, is how I was functioning. And the way that Dane does it is how I need to do it. And how Shannon does it is how I need to do it. And Shannon, my wife, is an access consciousness facilitator as well, and has been for a long time, and is very successful, and is an incredible facilitator, and also the founder of Talk to the Entities. So it was easy for me to put those three guys in this position of, well, that's what I need to be like, and that's what I need to choose, which eliminates so much of who I am and what I can be as a facilitator, and the choices in my life and so forth. So I just want to emphasize what Viv and I are talking about is not about to try and make Gary right or a new guru or anything like that. It's, and it took me a long time to get that. I feel like I only got it a couple of years ago now, to not put other people in that position, because then you automatically have to put yourself in a lesser position. And that's never what access consciousness is trying to achieve. And that's never what the tools are about. It's always about the question of recognizing, having the awareness that you have and who you be. Other people can be an incredible inspiration and facilitation, but what if you were, this is something Gary actually said, what if you were, rather than being fascinated by other people and other things, what if you were fascinated by you and your universe?
Great.
Not in terms of fascination as like, I'm so fucking amazing, or like, look at me, but interested in, like, you ask questions in a way that you get more information about you and who you be, and the joy and the enthusiasm of your life and living. Like, that's really what he's talking about. It's so easy to make, like, to be fascinated by other people, and then you're putting this energy flow out in a particular way that doesn't allow you to claim and own what is true for you, and include those other people as well, and receive the gift that they be.
Yeah, and if you ever do try and put Gary on a pedestal, he'll do something to quickly change that point of view that you might be hanging on to.
Totally. He's a master of that.
Oh yes, he's the master of the shock factor, that's for sure. And again, just delivering whatever is required to keep. It's always about what will create greater consciousness on the planet. Truly, it's like, and Dane's got a classic line that I love: all's well that ends in more awareness. So Max, thank you. This has been an awesome conversation. I'm very grateful for you jumping on, and
grateful for the invite. Thank you, Viv.
Oh, you're welcome. And for those of you who may be interested, Gary Douglas has a lot of telecalls that he does. You can jump on a Zoom with him. You can get on a telecall with him. There is so much access to this man, and truly, you are a gift when you're willing to ask a question. When you're willing to ask a question of yourself, of the universe, of another facilitator, of somebody who doesn't judge you, because you're actually looking to expand more possibilities for everybody across the planet. So if you want to know more about Gary, I've put his web address at the bottom there, and he's got a bunch of telecalls coming up, anything to do with money, sex, abuse. He does body classes. This guy is just incredible as a facilitator. So
indeed.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And I look forward to my next interview with Sean Van Orden, who will be with me in a couple of weeks' time. So I get to talk to all the gorgeous men in Access.
The three of us.
Thanks, Max.
Thank you, Viv. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.